Welcome back. Before I bring you in, can I just play what the Speaker of Parliament said when she rubbished claims that she's biased, and she's laid blame for the chaos in Parliament at the door of opposition parties. So let's hear her voice, if I may.
They will all tell you the same thing. The frustration of trying to manage a situation where people are going all out and they are saying it, that they are not here to cooperate. And of course, we are bound by a way of doing things that we have always followed. And we go all out to make sure we accommodate every honorable member.
What do you say about that?
Well, I think what she just said actually speaks volumes with regards to how Parliament has been conducting itself. In that the ANC had become comfortable for a very long time, in that, Parliament just basically rubber stamping what the executive has come to do. And there's some truth to that. And of course, perhaps the introduction of EFF has actually brought this debate about, because for a very long time there was this understanding that they can continue to do this, people hiding behind the Speaker's office, when ministers or the executive comes to Parliament, they be protected. And this was going to continue unabated. So the introduction of perhaps another party has actually come to question that. And perhaps those parties that were already there before this term of Parliament were in some way complicit in that, perhaps not having the platform or the strategy to deal with it, but in the main, it seems that the introduction of new entrants has brought about this questioning of how Parliament conducts its business, and certainly what is the best way to represent the South African public.
So let me just ask you that. Where are the boundaries then? Can I do anything in Parliament? Can I shout and scream?
Certainly not. I mean, of course, again, the people who are there, Parliament has been...
The Speaker's got to get a debate running which is fairly orderly at some point, don't you think?
I would think so. But at the end of the day, those individuals that are there will set the rules. If the rules are to say this is the dress code, if the rules are to say... So long as the institution acts in the best interest of the public.
Do you accept that that the institution is the thing that we're talking about here? Not your particular political interests, the institution as a whole.
I think,
and that this is an important institution.
I think, Judge Davis, we should remember that this institution, it's a museum and a heritage of the past. It needs to be transformed. There are such ridiculous rules here. You won't believe when I read them for you here. Rule 62 says, a speaker in a podium shall make sure that to a very great extent does not read from his speech. Meaning that if I'm not happy with the president who is only looking at his script, I can rise on a point of order in terms of Rule 62. That's very ridiculous.
That's the British tradition.
And one other rule says, it refers to the visitors to the chamber as strangers. That's how ridiculous the rules are.
That's more the English.
Okay. So now, when we are transforming this institution, it must not be seen to be disruptive. Yeah. Change is painful. Parliament just has to change.
But let's hold on to the centrality of it. Yeah. You don't need to persuade me that the word strangers is ridiculous. I also accept, given a modern age, and given the fact that people may be speaking in a language which is not necessarily their first language, that they may use notes. I mean, let's just get that out of the way. Yeah. But when you talk about a museum, you see, what I'm anxious to probe with you is that you throw the baby out with the bathwater, so that in effect the idea that Parliament is the national chamber for debating great issues becomes a thing of the past. And that seems to me to be something which is antithetical to any democratic practice.
The problem here, Judge Davis, is the ruling party. It is the majority party that is...
And they were elected by the majority, you must not forget that.
Well, but they were not elected to shut down the Parliament.
Okay.
By their conduct, in all their decisions that they take, they are not interested in a robust and a lively Parliament that discusses very serious issues in Parliament. For the past 8 months or so, we have been in Parliament. Nothing tangible that has been brought in there. And for that matter, it is the ruling party that dictates the agenda of Parliament.
Let me ask you, Professor, would you place you observe these things carefully. I'm going to bring the DA in at a point, but since I don't have anybody from the ANC, I want to ask you, just an impartial person.
Yeah, well,
do you think that the blame lies at the door of the ruling party here?
Well, I think, first of all, we must accept that the DA has introduced a way of seeing that says, let us also revisit some of these rules and see whether they, in effect, do advance democracy. And I've been very impressed that every time they go to Parliament, you'll see them having the rule book and always pointing out. So some of them will emerge as ridiculous. But what is important for the EFF and for all of us to understand is that people go to Parliament to influence policy. And in as much as they can find fault, and one of the things that they've actually introduced is the issue of whether the presiding officers conduct themselves in a manner that we expect them to do, to say you'll be fair, and whether their location makes that impossible. When you have somebody being a chairperson of a party, a chairperson of a party must make sure, among other things, in a different platform, that the members behave in a particular way.
Well, why should a majority party not be able to elect the person?
No, we're not saying they should not. But what the EFF is saying is that that may have been something that happened in the past. They are saying, is there a way in which we can find a way in which we do not start reading bias even where none exists because of somebody's association and location? That's the issue that is being raised, and that has not been responded to.
And what do you say to that yourself?
Well, I mean, I would like to see, I'm not even sure that bringing somebody who is not associated party will necessarily create that level of independence, because all of us are almost products of our own experience. Yes. So the issue for me that they've tried to push, and I think the ANC must take that seriously, that even if you don't change that particular rule, the people that you deploy must behave in a manner that compels, because the ANC has been in this position for the last 20 years, and this is the first time that the issue of bias is being introduced. It was not introduced in the last, that previous session of Parliament, because there was a particular behavior, even by this current speaker. We did not hear the DA raising this issue, but they were, of course, there were times when they were unhappy, but because they understood that there is a way in which the ANC and its members can be punished. And we must also understand the recourse to misbehavior and accountability is through the vote.
Got you. I want to take a break and then I'll come back. I want to ask you later.